My name's Jason, I'm 28, and I've always lived in my older brother's shadow. His name's Nick, and to say my parents adore him would be an understatement. Ever since we were kids, Nick was the golden boy. He was the perfect student, the star athlete, the one who always knew what he wanted to do with his life. Meanwhile, I was just me. I struggled in school, had no clear direction, and constantly felt like I was disappointing my parents. But here's the thing. Nick wasn't just successful in their eyes. He was the standard. The way they measured everyone else's worth was by comparing them to Nick, and it never ended well for me. For years, I did my best to carve my own path, but it always felt like I was swimming against the current. The more I tried to do my own thing, the more my parents pushed me to be like Nick. Why can't you just get your life together like your brother? Nick already has his own company. When will you figure things out, Jason? It was exhausting. Fast forward to a couple of months ago when my parents made it clear that they had had enough of my lack of ambition. I'd been working in a modest but steady job at a tech firm, doing all right, but not exactly thriving. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills, and I liked it. My parents didn't care about that. They didn't care that I enjoyed my work or that it allowed me a good work-life balance. No, they cared about success the way they defined it. High salary, status, the whole perfect American dream package. It all came to a head when I was sitting at the dinner table with my parents and Nick one evening. The conversation started innocently enough, with my mom asking how my job was going. I told her it was fine, nothing special, but I was happy. That's when Nick, sitting across from me, casually dropped a bombshell. Well, I just hired a new manager for one of my companies. He's 25, Jason, already managing teams of 50-plus people. He said it like he was just talking about the weather, but it stung. I wasn't even 30, and I still felt like I was barely getting my footing. My parents, of course, jumped on the opportunity to dig into me. Nick is right, my dad said, his tone sharp. You're over 28 now. It's time you took your future seriously. You can't just keep bouncing around from one job to the next. Look at Nick. He has his life together. What's stopping you? I tried to brush it off at first. I said I was happy with my career and didn't need to compare myself to Nick. But my dad wasn't having it. What? Are you going to sit around and let Nick outdo you at everything? You're living off his success. You can't keep being satisfied with fine forever, Jason. The words felt like a slap to the face. Nick, sitting there with his smug little smile, didn't even try to defend me. Instead, he added fuel to the fire. You're not getting any younger, Jason. You should be thinking about what kind of legacy you're going to leave. I mean, look at me. I'm already thinking about my retirement plan, and I'm only 30. What are you doing? It hit me then. It wasn't just about the job. It was about everything. My dad, Nick, they didn't see me for who I was. They only saw me as a failure, someone who couldn't live up to Nick's example. My heart started pounding in my chest. It was like this invisible weight was pressing down on me, and I couldn't breathe. But I didn't say anything right away. I sat there, silently, trying to keep my cool, but the frustration was bubbling inside me. I wasn't going to let them control my life anymore. I wasn't going to keep being the person they expected me to be. But I also knew something they didn't, something that would finally make them realize just how wrong they were about me. The thing is, I'd been keeping a little secret. A big one. See, in the past year, my career had taken an unexpected turn. After countless late nights, hard work, and a ton of self-learning, I'd managed to start a side business. It was small at first, but I quickly saw the potential. Over the past few months, my income had skyrocketed. I was making more money than Nick. A lot more. I was no longer just getting by. I was succeeding on my own terms. So, that night, as the pressure built, I finally snapped. You know what, Dad? I said, cutting him off mid-sentence. You want to know what I'm doing with my life? Everyone stopped talking. My mom looked up from her plate. Nick raised an eyebrow, and my dad leaned forward, clearly curious. What's that supposed to mean, Jason? I'll tell you, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I make more than Nick. Right now? This second. There was a long, awkward pause. Nick laughed nervously, as if I was joking. Come on, Jason, you can't seriously think you're… I do, I interrupted. I make more than you, Nick. By a lot. And I've been keeping it quiet because I didn't want to rub it in your face, but I've had enough. I'm not some disappointment. My dad's face turned red, and my mom looked like she was going to faint. Nick just stared at me, his usual smug demeanor replaced by something closer to disbelief. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but I sure didn't expect that. Prove it, my dad finally said, voice trembling. I pulled out my phone and showed them the screenshots of my latest earnings, numbers I hadn't even fully processed yet. The silence at the table was deafening. My dad, still in shock, looked at Nick and then back at me. How did you do this? I took a deep breath. Hard work, Dad. Not following someone else's path. Not trying to fit into someone else's box. I found my own way. I built something from the ground up. And I didn't need Nick's success to do it. Nick opened his mouth to say something, but the words caught in his throat. My mom was silent, her face a mix of confusion and guilt. The tension in the room was thick, and I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on all of us. But before anyone could say anything more, I stood up, ready to leave. I'm done with this. I don't need your approval. I'm finally proud of who I am. I walked out of the room, not even waiting for a response. But as I stepped outside, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. I wasn't living in Nick's shadow. But little did I know, that was just the beginning of the storm. The following week, things were different. It wasn't like my parents or Nick outright confronted me, but I could feel the shift. There was this cold, tense undercurrent every time I walked into a room. It was like they were all trying to process what had happened, but no one knew how to react. Nick, surprisingly, didn't call me. Not even once. He always had to be the one to reach out first. After all, he was the responsible one. I thought maybe he was embarrassed or angry, but I didn't care. My focus had shifted to something more important. It wasn't just about proving them wrong anymore. It was about making sure I stayed true to my own path, and I wasn't going to let anyone derail me. But the real storm came about 3 days later. I was sitting at home, just winding down after a long day of working on my business when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my mom. Jason, we need to talk. Your father is really upset, and we don't understand why you're keeping this a secret from us. You're still our son, and we want to be proud of you. Please come over. I stared at the message for a moment, my pulse picking up. Really upset? My dad had been angry before, but this felt different. They weren't asking me to come over for a normal family dinner or to talk about the business. This felt like an intervention. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Let them stew. But the other part of me, the one that still craved their approval, felt a pang of guilt. Maybe I was being too harsh. Maybe they were right about one thing. I wasn't giving them the chance to see who I was. I wasn't showing them how far I'd come. So, against my better judgment, I decided to go. When I arrived at their house, it felt like walking into a courtroom. The tension was palpable. Nick was sitting on the couch, arms crossed, wearing that look of superiority that always made me feel small. My dad was pacing, and my mom was sitting at the kitchen table, her hands folded neatly in front of her. Jason, my dad started, voice low but controlled. We've been talking, and we think you owe us an explanation. What's going on with you? I felt my stomach tighten. I've already explained everything, Dad. I'm doing fine. More than fine, actually. You're doing fine? Nick cut in, a little too sharply. You've been hiding this from us, Jason. You've been making more than me this whole time, and you didn't tell anyone? What kind of brother does that? His words stung, but I kept my cool. What kind of brother keeps talking down to his own sibling like that? I shot back. Maybe I didn't tell anyone because I didn't need you to know. Maybe I didn't want to be compared to you again. That shut him up. But my dad wasn't done. This isn't about Nick, Jason. It's about you not being honest with us. You're not a kid anymore. You should have shared this with us. We could have been happy for you. Proud of you. I looked at my mom, and for the first time, I saw a hint of uncertainty in her eyes. It wasn't the kind of reaction I was expecting. I wasn't hiding anything from you, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I didn't feel like I had to announce my success to the world. I did it on my own, and that's how I wanted it. But that's the thing. You guys don't respect my choices. You didn't respect me until you saw the numbers. You didn't respect me until you saw I could do something big. It was like a light bulb went off. My mom's expression shifted. She was still quiet, but there was this flicker of realization, like she was beginning to understand what I was saying. My dad, however, wasn't having it. We've tried to do everything for you, Jason. We wanted you to be happy, but you can't just keep running away from your responsibilities. You need to stop acting like you're above us. You're not. You're still our son, and you need to acknowledge that. I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. I don't want to act above you, Dad. I just don't want to be compared to Nick anymore. I'm tired of it. I'm my own person, and I've earned my success. I've worked hard for this. Don't make me feel bad about it. There was another heavy silence. Nick looked like he was about to say something, but I wasn't giving him the satisfaction. My dad's face was flushed, and he looked like he was trying to digest everything I just said. My mom finally spoke up. Maybe, maybe we've been too hard on you, Jason, she said, her voice softer than I expected. We've always been so focused on Nick's success that we forgot to see you for who you are. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It felt like a small victory, but I wasn't ready to let my guard down. It's not just about success, Mom. It's about respect. It's about being able to stand on my own without feeling like I have to apologize for it. At that moment, my dad sighed deeply, rubbing his temples. I'm sorry, Jason. I didn't mean to pressure you. But you've got to understand, we want what's best for you. We want to see you succeed. It's just hard for us to let go of the idea that you need our approval. The air in the room seemed to lighten a little, but the tension was still there. I could tell this conversation wasn't over. There was still a lot to unpack, a lot of old wounds that needed healing. But for the first time, I felt like I'd actually been heard. That night, I left my parents' house feeling, not defeated, but uncertain. I knew I had more to prove, not to them, but to myself. I knew that even if they didn't fully understand me, I could keep moving forward. But just when I thought the storm had passed, things took another unexpected turn. I got a message from Nick the next morning. Dad's really upset. He thinks you're getting a little too cocky with all this success. Maybe you should think about making things right with him before it's too late. I read the message twice, feeling my anger build up. Nick wasn't even trying to hide his disdain. But this time, I wasn't going to let him manipulate me. Instead, I wrote back, Nick, you're not the one who gets to tell me how to live my life. You've always been the golden child, but I'm done with that. If Dad wants to be upset, that's his problem. But I'm not going to sit around and apologize for being successful. And with that, I hit send. The message to Nick felt like a weight lifting off my chest. I had no intention of backing down anymore, not after everything that had happened. The more I thought about it, the more I realized just how much I had been holding in. I had spent so many years trying to meet everyone's expectations, thinking that if I could just prove myself, things would be different. But this wasn't about approval anymore. It was about setting boundaries. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. Nick didn't respond to my message, and my parents didn't call me. It was like the storm had passed, but the calm felt unnatural. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still simmering beneath the surface. They had been so used to me being the problematic child, the one who never quite fit in, that I didn't know how to navigate the space I had just carved for myself. Then, on the 5th day, the phone call came. It was my mom. Her voice was strained, like she had been crying. Jason, we need to talk. Your father, he's really hurt. I think he's been bottling up a lot more than we thought. He wants to meet. I froze. This wasn't how I expected it to go. I had been bracing myself for a confrontation, but hearing my mom speak like this, vulnerable, almost broken, made my stomach twist. I knew it wasn't just about me anymore. It wasn't just about my success. It was about all of us, and how we had been living in this bubble of unspoken tension for so long. Where? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. We'll meet at the cafe. Please, Jason. It's important. We need to talk face to face. I agreed, though my mind was racing. I had no idea what my dad would say, what he might demand. The thought of seeing him, having to face the man who had always tried to mold me into something I wasn't, brought up emotions I wasn't sure I was ready to handle. But I had to go. If there was even the slightest chance we could make this right, I had to give it a shot. When I arrived at the cafe, my heart was pounding in my chest. I scanned the room for them, finding my parents sitting at a corner table. My dad was sitting with his hands folded, his posture rigid. My mom looked up when she saw me and gave me a small, nervous smile. Jason, thank you for coming, she said, her voice quiet. I nodded and sat down, glancing at my dad. His face was hard to read, but there was a flicker of something in his eyes that made my stomach drop. Regret? Anger? Maybe both. There was a long silence. My dad wasn't speaking, so my mom took the lead. We've been thinking a lot about everything you said, she began. And we realize we've been pushing you, maybe in ways that weren't fair. We wanted what was best for you, but we didn't stop to ask what you wanted. You've always been a quiet kid, Jason. We thought we knew what was best for you. But now, she trailed off, clearly unsure of how to continue. I get it, I said, cutting in before the silence stretched on too long. I don't want to be part of your vision of what my life should look like. I'm my own person, and I've been working hard to build my own future. My dad's gaze sharpened at my words, but he didn't interrupt. Instead, he leaned forward, his tone softer than I had ever heard it before. I never wanted to force you into anything. I, I was just trying to protect you. I didn't understand why you kept everything to yourself. Why you didn't trust us. It felt like you were hiding from us. I wasn't hiding, I said, my voice firm now. I was just doing things my way, the way that felt right for me. And I wasn't hiding from you. I didn't think you'd get it. I didn't think you'd care. A long silence followed, and I could see the weight of my words settling in. My mom wiped away a tear, and for the first time, I saw my dad's expression falter. He wasn't the immovable, authoritative figure I had grown up with. He looked human. I'm sorry, Jason, he said, his voice thick. I should have listened to you sooner. I should have let you be your own person. I nodded slowly, feeling a mixture of relief and uncertainty. This wasn't the reconciliation I had imagined, but it was a start. I appreciate that, Dad. I really do. But it's going to take time. You can't just expect things to go back to normal overnight. He nodded, his face clouded with emotion. I know. And I'm not asking for that. I want to make things right. I want to be a part of your life again, Jason. My mom reached across the table, her hand gently resting on mine. We love you, Jason. And we want to be proud of you. But we need to understand who you are, not who we want you to be. At that moment, something inside me shifted. I had spent so long trying to prove myself to them, to show them I wasn't just the black sheep of the family, but maybe that was never the real issue. The issue was that they didn't know who I was. They only saw the version of me they wanted to see. And maybe, just maybe, they were beginning to realize that. We spent the next hour talking, not about business or success or comparisons, but about the things that really mattered. Our lives, our choices, our dreams. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. As I left the cafe that day, I felt a strange sense of peace. It wasn't the kind of victory I had imagined, but it was a win. For the first time, I felt like I was seen for who I truly was. But just when I thought the tension had eased, I got another text from Nick. It was short, simple, and pointed. Dad's been talking about you again. He's mad you didn't tell him about the promotion. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Not this again, I muttered under my breath. It wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The message from Nick hit me harder than I expected. I felt the weight of it in my chest like a stone lodged there, pulling me back into that place I had worked so hard to escape from. The progress, the conversation with my parents, it all felt like it was slipping through my fingers. I was finally beginning to believe that things could change, that we could start to heal. But this felt like a step backward. I stared at my phone, fingers hovering over the keyboard as I debated whether or not to respond. I had worked so hard to get to this point, to push past the expectations, the guilt, the comparisons. And now, here was another reminder that my father still saw me as a second choice, a backup. That feeling of being overlooked, of never being good enough unless I was following in my brother's footsteps, surged again. But I had already made the decision to no longer be that person. I had already stood up for myself, and I wasn't about to back down now. I called Nick instead of replying by text, needing to hear his voice, needing him to hear the firmness in mine. Nick, I said when he picked up, my voice cold, my resolve hardening. This is the last time. I'm done with this game. Nick was quiet for a moment, probably stunned by the tone I was using. What are you talking about? He asked, but I could hear the underlying tension in his voice. I'm talking about the pressure, the comparisons, and Dad's constant attempts to make me feel like I'm not enough. I'm done, I said, my voice growing steadier with each word. I've worked hard to get where I am, and I don't owe anyone an explanation for it. Not you, not him, no one. Nick sighed. I get it, man. I do. But Dad's not going to take it well. You know how he is. I don't care anymore. Nick, I interrupted. I've spent my whole life caring about how they feel, about how they see me. But no more. I'm not doing this for approval. I'm doing this for me. There was silence on the other end for a long moment. And then, finally, Nick said, I get it. I just wanted to warn you, that's all. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Thanks, but I've got it. I'm done being the one who bends. If Dad's mad, that's on him. With that, I ended the call, feeling a strange sense of finality wash over me. It wasn't going to be easy, but I was done playing by anyone's rules but my own. I had chosen my path, and nothing was going to stop me from walking it. The next morning, I received a call from my dad. I wasn't surprised. I'd been waiting for it. I let it ring for a moment, my heart pounding in my chest, but then I answered. Jason, his voice was tight, more formal than usual. We need to talk. About what? I asked, keeping my tone level. About your promotion. You didn't even mention it to me. Not a word. It's not like you to keep something like that to yourself. I could feel the old pressure building, the familiar tug of guilt creeping up on me. But I wasn't going to give in this time. I didn't mention it because it's not something I need your approval for anymore, I said, trying to sound calm even though I could feel the anger bubbling beneath the surface. I'm proud of what I've achieved, but I didn't need you to tell me I was worth it. I figured that out on my own. There was a long silence on the other end, and when he spoke again, his voice was lower, softer. I didn't mean to push you, Jason. I just wanted to be proud of you. I know you do, I said, my voice gentler now. But I need you to understand, Dad. I can't be proud of the person you want me to be. I have to be proud of the person I am. Another long pause. And then, finally, he said, I've been thinking about what you said, about how I've treated you. And I'm sorry. I felt the weight of those words in my chest. I had spent so long waiting for them, hoping for them, and now that they were here, they didn't feel as relieving as I thought they would. But they did feel like a start, a beginning. I appreciate that, I said quietly. But I need more than just an apology. I need you to actually listen, to see me for who I am, not who you want me to be. I'm willing to try, he said. But it's going to take time. I know, I said, feeling something shift inside me. It's going to take time for all of us. But I'm not going anywhere. I'm just not going to be your second choice anymore. We sat in silence for a while, and it felt different from all the times before. There was no judgment, no pressure, just two people trying to understand each other. For the first time in a long time, I felt like maybe we could get somewhere. As the conversation wound down, I realized that this wasn't about winning. It wasn't about who was right or who had been wronged. It was about taking control of my own life, about making the decisions that were best for me, and that meant being honest, even when it was uncomfortable. When I hung up the phone, I felt a strange sense of peace. It wasn't perfect, and I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. But for the first time, I felt like I was standing on my own 2 feet, ready to walk a path that was entirely mine. And no one could take that from me.